Hey, everybody, welcome to the sixth annual Beginning Again retreat. We're now going to have a panel discussion led by Sandra about life after caregiving ends and finding meaning. And she and Susan and Dennis are going to share their experiences. So, Sandra, take it away.
All right. Hi, everyone, and welcome. I'm Sandra Pedicini. I'm here with Susan Stern and Dennis Delniak. We're all former caregivers, and we're really happy to be here with you today, and so happy that Denise is having us be part of this really meaningful event. So our session's called Healing Through Giving Back, and it's about how we take all of that energy we poured into taking care of our loved ones and find constructive new channels to help others, whether that be through volunteering or through our work. And I think Dennis summed it up beautifully in his 6-word story, Moving Forward with Purpose and Service. So we're going to each share our story, and then we're going to talk about some of the skills that we gain through caregiving and how those are transferable to other aspects of our lives, including giving back. We're going to talk about how we can heal through giving back. And we do want this to be interactive, so we'll prompt you throughout to ask questions and make comments in the chat. So we do hope you'll do that. So first, a little bit about me. I was a caregiver for my mom, Jerry, and she was a very spunky and independent person. She lived on her own until she was almost 90. But as she got into her 90s, she needed more help. And she started having issues with falls and with dementia. And she was diagnosed with cancer and passed away at the age of 93. And it was really kind of a double whammy for me because I had been a sandwich generation caregiver. I had cared for my mom while my daughter was in middle school and high school, and my mom passed away just a couple of months after my daughter left for college. So it was a huge void there. I lost big parts of my identity all at once. And through caregiving, I had gotten so much support through support groups and through programs like Denise's. And I wanted to stay connected to that world. And I wanted to use my experience to help others after having been on the receiving end of that assistance. So my friend Susan, who you'll hear from next, told me about an organization called Duet, and I'm going to take just a minute to give them a plug. They are a fabulous nonprofit based in Arizona with programs that are provided to caregivers around the country through virtual technology. They have webinars, they have different, more intensive sessions that last a few weeks, including one that's very relevant for this group. It's called The Next Chapter, and I'll provide you with information about Duet at the end of our presentation. They also have a caregiving mentoring program, and that's what Susan's involved with, and that's what she got me involved with. So once a week, I get on a phone call with a caregiver and provide emotional support. We talk through issues that they're having, and I've been with the same person now for a year, and she, like me, is a sandwich generation caregiver. She's taking care of her mom. She's raising a couple of teenagers. We're around the same age, have had many of the same experiences, have a lot in common. So a real friendship has blossomed there. And she told me once that caregiving can be a lonely road, which I'm sure a lot of you can relate to, but that I had helped to make it less lonely. And that was a super rewarding moment for me. I also do a little freelance writing about aging and caregiving issues. And I helped Duet with some communications projects earlier this year. So I'm using storytelling skills to give back as well. And with that, I'm going to turn things over to Susan.
Right. One day at a time. That was my mantra during my many, many years of caregiving. Just like Denise, it was over 20 years. I cared for both of my parents. My dad had multiple cancers for over 13 years, and I was one of his long distance caregivers. He passed away in January of 2014. And before he passed away, we already knew we had another journey ahead of us. My mom had significant signs of dementia, and she was diagnosed with breast cancer 6 months after he passed away. So I moved her down from New Jersey to Florida, so I became her primary family caregiver. My mom was sweet and sassy, and we learned a lot. We became much closer, and the direction of my life changed by being her caregiver and just learning also how to manage the stress. So I changed careers. Instead of going back to being a speech language pathologist, I switched and I went back to school and I became a board certified coach. And at the age of 50, I opened up a new business called Spring to Life Coaching, and I help support family caregivers. And one of the main things we do is we focus on boundaries and taking care of themselves, because that was one of my pain points. I had 3 cancer scares because of the stress of caregiving. So I'm very passionate about helping caregivers take better care of themselves, because we're tender-hearted people. We give and we give. So we want to learn how to set loving boundaries. So, in addition to my coaching practice, I also give back by being a co facilitator of a support group at my mom's previous memory care. And I actually met Dennis, his late wife, and my mom were both at the same community. So, I've been doing that for over 5 years, and it's wonderful to be able to help support someone who's just starting having their person living with dementia enter memory care, and walking them all the way through until after their person passes. And what happens is they often stay too. They're giving back by being able to help support those newer family members. And like Sandra said, also with Duet, I've been a mentor for 2.5 years to my first mentee. That's been very fulfilling. They do an excellent job matching you. And so she and I are also the same age. And then I took on a second mentee, and I've had her for 6 months. So the journey has been very fulfilling to be able to use my pain for purpose, the things that I've learned that have helped me both in my coaching career, but also in giving back as a volunteer in different ways. Next, I'd like to introduce my friend Dennis, who is one of the most busiest people I know around. Go ahead and take it away, Dennis.
Thank you, Susan. And yes, I do stay busy. As I define myself, I'm the consummate volunteer who always seems to have more going on than people can accomplish with me. Well, my mantra while I was taking care of Nancy was having good days but bad moments. I tried to minimize those bad moments, but always tried to have that smile and provide a positive outlook, which went along with my service ethic that I have, a very, very strong one at that. And even while Nancy was still in memory care, I created with Tony Gittles dementia friendly dining, because Nancy loved to go to restaurants, even outside of the memory care community. And so these dementia friendly dining restaurants in Central Florida provide safe places that families with loved ones that have dementia can go and enjoy a quality meal, enjoy quality time together. And I'm always looking for additional restaurants that might be out in our community or in others, because this concept is very transferable. Support wise, I do take care of and facilitate a men's support group that meets both in person and online. And I have dozens of guys who join me. And so my caregiving experiences constantly get uh, replicated, challenged, and also provided very strong resources to guys who are in that caregiving experience. And then lastly, that I want to talk about here is a foundation that I created. This foundation honors my wife, Nancy, who was a
I wonder if Dennis froze.
Yeah.
and she
Which is,
loved books. She loved kids.
There we go.
Okay, sorry.
It's okay.
Sorry, I was a little unstable there.
It's okay. It's
Sorry,
okay.
Denise.
You have stabilized, so you're good.
Okay, super. Well, let me talk about the Nana's Books Foundation, because this foundation I created to honor my wife, Nancy. While she was even still alive on her deathbed, I was able to share some of the concepts with her. And our foundation now is in year 5. And we give books that are grade appropriate on Alzheimer's, dementia, and other disabilities to Title I schools in their neighboring public libraries. And I'm very, very proud. In the first 4 years of distribution, we've given out over 20,000 books to 24 Title I schools in 11 states, and looking forward to expanding this to new states in 2026 and hopefully sharing my resources that I have helping families that are either currently in caregiving for a dementia person or perhaps having some person with a disability in their family or in their classroom. Very important that we give back, which is why I'm very thrilled to be on this panel today. So I will send it back to Sandra.
Thanks, Dennis. Well, Dennis and Susan both do such amazing work, and I'm just really proud to know them. So, all right, well, let's talk a little bit about the skills that we've gained during caregiving. So, caregiving is extremely difficult, but it's also really meaningful, and it gives us a lot of rewards. And those include memories of the time that we spend with our loved ones, pride that we can take in a job well done, taking care of them. And we gain a whole host of emotional and then more practical hard skills through our caregiving. And we may not think about it at the time, but we learn a lot. So I have put a few of the skills that we gain through caregiving up here on this slide. And I encourage you to share in the chat things that you've learned or skills that you've gained through your caregiving experience. We can talk about the ones that are up here first. So, resilience. We have to show up day after day, even when we're exhausted and uncertain about what's going to happen next. We learn empathy through seeing our loved ones' vulnerability so closely. We learn patience through all the setbacks that we have to experience. And active listening. We have to learn to be present, and we have to learn to hear not only what's being said, but what's not being said. We have to learn to read between the lines a little bit, read things like body language and tone. And this is particularly important when you're taking care of someone with dementia. And then there's more practical, hard skills. So there's advocacy. We have to stand up for our loved ones' needs when they're not able to do it for themselves. And we have to navigate really complicated systems like healthcare and long-term care. We have to be organized. We have to organize everything from medications to schedules to paperwork. We have to develop systems that work for us. Time management, as well as managing things. We have to manage time. Many times we are balancing caregiving with other aspects of our lives. We might be working part-time or full-time. We might be raising kids. So we have to learn how to prioritize. We have to learn how to plan ahead. And then problem solving. There is always a problem when you're a caregiver. And so we have to learn how to be adaptable and flexible, think on our feet, and be creative. And then is there anything else in the chat that anyone wanted to share? Okay.
Yeah, Christine is sharing humility
Okay.
and self-preservation. And
Yeah.
Tiliana is sharing being able to provide emotional safety.
Hmm.
And
Yeah.
Dwayne is sharing selflessness, emotional regulation. That's a good one.
That is a good
Yeah,
one.
yeah,
Yes.
yeah.
And we have to take a deep breath sometimes. And that is definitely a skill that can serve us in other aspects of our lives as well. All right. Anything else? All right.
You're caught
So
up.
all of these skills, from the emotional regulation to the advocacy, we can use them in other aspects of our lives as well. We can use them in relationships with other people. We can use them in work if we're still working, and we can use them to help other people through volunteer efforts or through coaching or through mentoring.
We have just a couple more comments that just came in. So
Sure.
Tony is sharing, I learned honest communication with mom, never withhold feelings. And Dana is
I like it.
sharing financial literacy.
Oh, yeah. I can definitely relate to that one. And it's applicable to other aspects of your life as well. So, all right. So, why take that energy and put it toward helping others and giving back? Well, it feels good, and it's good for others, and it's good for us as well. there are a variety of ways in which giving back can help us heal. And I've listed a few here. And again, I encourage comments in the chat, ways that you're hoping to find healing as you're moving forward. So there's rebuilding a sense of purpose. I think a couple of us have mentioned that void that's there. The person we love isn't there anymore. We have all these hours we used to fill with caregiving, and now we have to fill them with something else. And we can be reminded by giving back that our experience matters and we have something to contribute. Creating new connections. So caregiving can often be isolating. And as we get older, it's harder to make new friends. But by getting out there and volunteering or connecting with others through some kind of mentoring, we're meeting new people. And they're often people we have a lot in common with. So we can start to rebuild some of those relationships. Finding creative outlets, whether you're speaking or writing or starting a new project, there's parts of yourself that you may have had to set aside because you were so busy caregiving, and you can rediscover those through your work giving back. Enhancing self-esteem. Often after we're done caregiving, we ask whether we did enough, whether we did it right. And through caregiving, through giving back, it can remind us that we have strength, we have compassion, and we have an ability to help others. And that can really build confidence and pride in who we are. And it can even improve our physical health, which often takes a toll, which caregiving often takes a toll on. And studies have shown that volunteering and social engagement lower stress. They reduce depression, which a lot of people suffer from during and after caregiving. And they can even help cardiovascular health. Denise, anything else in the chat?
Yeah, Bobby is sharing that she's been working on self-care. And Jennifer is sharing something that is like amazing, helping others with the concept of difficult decisional conversations.
I like that. Yeah, that's a good one. And through interacting with others through different caregiving programs after your caregiving is done, I think that's a good way to use that skill. All right. I am going to end the slideshow for a little while here, and then Dennis and Susan and I are going to have a little conversation. So, all right. So Dennis and Susan, when I think about how mentoring helped me, it filled that void that I've talked about. And I think it also helped me kind of work through some things. So I mentioned feeling like maybe you didn't do enough or didn't do it right. And I was always so busy getting things done and taking care of everybody. I feel like, oh, sometimes I wasn't present enough. And so I stress that to other caregivers to be sure to take the time for that just being. But it's also helped me be a little forgiving toward myself as well, I think. Just a few days ago, my mentee was texting me about a situation that happened, and she was feeling really guilty about it. And I just texted her really quickly. It's really easy to say I should have after the fact, but we're all just doing the best we can in the moment. And that was kind of this light bulb moment for me that reminded me that we all have been doing the best that we can in the moment. And we can offer grace to others, but we can offer it to ourselves as well. So Susan and Dennis, what do you think? How has giving back helped you heal?
Well, for me, it helped me since I was giving back while my mom was still alive. It helped me give my brain a break of focusing on my own situation and helping someone else. So it helped me heal some of my grief. I had a lot of anticipatory grief, and then also the true grief after she passed away. So just having that focus, and also I feel like it helps that younger version of myself, the one 10 years ago who just didn't know what to do, felt alone, and didn't know what resources were available. So I love being able to support newer caregivers. So that way I feel like I'm helping that younger version of myself.
I love that.
Well, I know the healing for me came with creating dementia-friendly dining and seeing the joy that Nancy had in going to restaurants and seeing how friendly other groups came together and appreciated the opportunity to have those quality of life experiences. And so that's my giving back while Nancy was still alive. And now that she is gone, my giving back is truly in helping the education and literacy of the youth.
what skills do you think you use the most from caregiving? For me, I think about that active listening and how that's helped me in mentoring. And then I think about the time management because a lot of these things I'm doing are in addition to my full-time job. How about you two?
I think for me, starting to feel the emotions, I think the grief was getting so heavy towards the end with my mom, who went through all the stages of dementia. So it gave me time afterwards during and afterwards to feel those emotions and to learn to regulate, like someone had mentioned before, and balance. I think learning how to balance things, even in the giving back. I'm a helper. I like to help people, but just checking in with myself, making sure I'm not giving too much, but I'm giving out of love. And that's something I try to focus on.
Yeah. And of
Yeah,
course, these are all skills that you share with the people that you coach, right? And
Exactly.
yeah, and the mentees. Yeah.
and for me, I think I learned so much more intimate compassion for others, being able to listen, being able to focus and let them talk instead of interrupt sometimes in a conversation, and just being there, which is so important. Being there to help others and sharing that kindness that is so inherent in us as human beings as we show our love for others.
Yeah. That is very needed in the world. So your work is great, Dennis.
Thank you.
Um, so you two started, even before your loved ones passed away. I took a little time after my mom passed away. How do you think you know when you're ready to get started with some kind of giving back?
I think you need to allow time to grieve. I think that's really important too, because a lot of times the pace is so busy that you really don't have as much time as you want to. Or for someone, if you have back to back caregiving too, you might have two passings to grieve. So having that time to grieve and rest, and your nervous system has been through so much, it can be very traumatic. And just getting back to a sleep routine, letting your body feel safe and having it feel joyful too, like you're ready. Not if you feel like it's something else you have to do, an obligation, maybe that's not time. Maybe you still need more time to rest and just discover who you are, because you change who you are. The caregiving changes your essence.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, I'm sure you needed that rest too, because this was a very long journey for you between two parents. I know, Susan.
Yeah, and I didn't even realize that after my mom passed, I was grieving both my parents because I didn't have time to grieve for my dad, so I went straight into caregiving,
Yeah,
which I know a lot of caregivers do.
yeah, that's true.
Yeah, and one of the pieces I emphasize, and I thank Bobby for mentioning in our chat, is self-care.
Yeah,
While while you're in that process of taking care of your loved ones, self-care is important. And then afterward, you've got to focus on self-care, which you may not have had time to deal with. And so I continually emphasize that with my men support group and those who are in both current caregiving and caregiving that already has ended.
yeah, yeah. And I learned that through the different support groups and programs, and so I try to emphasize that as well. Are there any questions from anybody in the chat as we wrap up the Q&A? I'm going to ask one more question, and then if anyone else has anything they'd like to add, we can address that.
We have some comments. So
Okay.
Tony is sharing that after mom died, I needed to rest. I was exhausted. I never thought about helping others until a friend suggested that I had learned so much I should help caregivers. And Dwayne is sharing that caregiving creates a sense of worth and purpose.
I love it.
Yeah. And then finally, Dr. Anderson is sharing, yes, self-care is key.
Yes. Yeah, absolutely. So Dennis, your path was really obvious, I think. Just you had that connection to the books through Nancy's career as a librarian. And then you loved to go out to eat together. So Central Florida Dementia Friendly Dining sprung from that. And then Susan, you're such an empathetic person that going into coaching was just a natural for you. And then, of course, you led me to Duet, Susan. But for someone whose path isn't so obvious, what do you suggest in terms of figuring out how you might want to give back?
I would look at what your strengths are, what your values are, and what your interests. So I love how we're all uniquely different. So for someone, maybe it's not even giving back in the caregiving sense. Maybe you want to help with animals because that's your interest. Like I said before, we want it to feel good, and it could even be a legacy. So maybe your person loved animals, so that way it aligns. So having something align and experimenting, trying it out. You're allowed to change your mind, seeing what's the right fit for you.
Well, for me, I was already in a support group, and I found additional support groups through Grief Share and dealing with the grieving. And so I felt support from those groups. And I think it's very important that team of support can be helpful in giving you suggestions too of outlets that you can seek out and explore. And I encourage you, don't isolate yourself when that life comes to an end. Yes, you do have to recharge and refocus, but the isolation is not favorable toward your socialization. And that is so important for us as humans.
Yes, you're absolutely right. So we're going to talk a little bit more about some other options for getting involved. I'm just going to take a moment here to share my screen again. All right. So for a lot of us, caregiving involves older adults, could be parents, could be spouses. And so if you would like to continue helping aging adults, there are some opportunities there. So every state has a volunteer ombudsman program where you advocate for people who live in skilled nursing facilities. It is time intensive. You do have to undergo training and you have to commit to a certain number of hours per month, at least here in Florida. And so if you'd like to do something a little less intensive and maybe just dip your toe in the water, you could work with AARP because they have volunteer opportunities around the country, everything from political advocacy to just manning a booth at an event. And then there are organizations that support people with specific health conditions. So there's the Alzheimer's Association, for example, and I know both Dennis and Susan have been involved in that group's fundraising walks. And then Susan touched on this. I mean, this could be something that has nothing to do with aging or caregiving. It could be something that was a passion or interest of your loved one that they passed down to you, or it could be something that is just really important to you and that you didn't have time for as a caregiver. So the options really are endless. So let's talk about some of the organizations that we mentioned today if you would like more information. So there's Duet, which has those volunteer opportunities, but also those programs like Next Chapter for people whose caregiving has ended. So they're at duetaz, like Arizona.org. If you'd like to learn more about coaching, you can go to springtolifecoaching.com and learn more about what Susan does. You might want to book some sessions with her, or you might think that coaching would be a good outlet for you. And there's all kinds of programs there. In fact, Denise has a caregiver coaching program, and you could get in touch with her about how to get involved with that. And then Dennis's programs are Central Florida Dementia-friendlydining.com and nanasbooks.org. And then we're going to take just a couple minutes and have you reflect on one small step you can take to honor your loved one's legacy and start to heal by giving back. So we'll take 2 or 3 minutes for that. And then if you want to drop comments in the chat as far as what your reflection is, we would love to share it. And then Denise, if you can just watch out for those.
Yes. And I want to mention that our community caringourway.com also has lots of opportunities for you to get involved. We have a caregiving listener project twice a year where you are a volunteer listener to receive a story that a family caregiver wants to share that they might worry about sharing with someone else who doesn't get it. And we also have a mentor program. It's for anyone who's caring for a family member. I think Duet is a little more specific to dementia family caregivers.
Not necessarily.
Okay.
Okay.
Okay. Yeah, great. Okay. And yeah, so feel free to stay connected with us as well because we also have events that you can join as a presenter. So you can share your wisdom as a presenter as well. Yeah, so Stephanie is sharing that she loves hearing about the Duet program. She's interested in researching about it and potentially sharing it as a resource. Yeah. And Tony is sharing that she and Dennis are members of Lions International. Our local chapter is active in many volunteer opportunities in the community and statewide. Yeah, so I think it's great to think about how you can use your wisdom and knowledge base to help others. And Corey is sharing that she's been doing a support group for persons with Parkinson's and their care partners. And she also is joining colleagues in offering Tai Chi for persons with Parkinson's and thinking about getting trained in drumming. Yeah. Yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
And Christine is sharing that shortly before her sister died, she founded You First, an online group that offers coaching and support to women who are giving care. And Christine is going to share a little bit more about that in the third hour. And Tiliana is sharing, I'm actively a caregiver, and ways I would honor her would be to make their favorite meal, listen to the video recordings I have, and pray to a loved one. And Tony is sharing that she leads caregiving support groups and grief support groups in Central Florida. I want to mention too that you can make a difference in your community by simply being kind to someone who you see is stressed out in the grocery store, because there's a reason they are stressed out, and I will tell you they are so in need of kindness. So there are ways for us to make a difference just in how we show up in our community, because we know how we showed up as a family caregiver in our community, and we so needed kindness from strangers we encountered, and we can be that stranger who offers kindness to others we encounter. Yes, Colleen is sharing a smile goes a long way. Melissa is sharing that she created a local support group, and she's going through the certified caregiving consultant training. That's our coaching program to provide the help she wished she had when she was caregiving. And
So beautiful to see how we're such a supportive community. We all are just looking for ways to support and educate each other.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And encourage each other. That's the other thing. I think sometimes we might have a doubt. Can I? Should I? And it's so encouraging to hear, yes, you can. And perhaps, yes, you should. That there is a need that you can fill through your compassion and knowledge base and wisdom.
Well said. Well, Denise, I know you need us to wrap up in just a minute here. Do you have maybe one or two more comments that you want to share, and then we can come to a close?
There's one more comment in the chat room. So as an occupational therapy assistant in long-term care for 20 years and taking care of my father, I have become a resource for friends and family members to help them in that capacity, and always stress the importance of self-care and respite to help reset for the long road ahead of caregiving.
Yeah. That's great. All right. Well, thank you, everyone. It's been great to be here with you today. Thank you so much for all the insightful comments and all the ideas. Our contact information is here if you would like to get in touch with us. And other than that, just remember that giving back can, once you're ready, it can be a beautiful way to honor your loved one and to start on that path toward healing. So I wish you all the best.
Thank you so much, Sandra and Dennis and Susan. And for those who are watching the recording, we'll have information about how to be in touch with them in the show notes. Okay.